What happens when a woman loses herself long before she ever breaks? Michelle Wollaston lived years inside a relationship defined by control and emotional abuse until the disconnect became impossible to ignore. Leaving wasn't the end, it was her awakening. Guided by a mentor back into stillness, gratitude, and spiritual practice, she began rebuilding trust in her own inner voice. Now she uses energetic systems like astrology, human design, and energetic architecture to help women understand their patterns, reclaim their identity, and remember who they really are. Before we begin, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being
Hey,
here.
Caroline, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm gonna say ahead. We've already started on a crazy journey and we're 20 minutes late, but you know what? That's part of it.
Yeah,
That's all part of
it's
the
all good.
process. So I'm doing great. So, Michelle, can you go a little deeper into the traumas you experienced and how your personal healing journey got you where you are today and into the work that you do?
Well, I've always understood spiritual practice ever since I was a young teenager. My father was an energy healer, so that was something that had always been a part of my belief and my faith system. So during my long-term relationship, which was not healthy, when I finally got to a point where obviously it was my time to move out of that experience, I had obviously been there long enough and I needed to make those decisions around my own self-worth and self-love, is when my mentor came across my path. And through that, through that person coming to me, I think it just allowed me to step outside of all of that noise. And that's what I say to my clients, that there's so much noise, especially in midlife, that stops you from hearing yourself and putting yourself first. So having that person allowed me to sort of stop and lower that noise and remember what I was here for. And just through working with her, I made the decisions eventually to leave the relationship. And I think, like most of us that go into a path of sharing our lived experience with others and holding space for others to allow them to come to the same decisions and the same outcomes that we have, um, it just sort of evolved from there. So the spiritual aspect of it is nothing new to me, but the learning to help others heal through my lived experience, that's sort of just how I arrived at it.
So, when you were going through all that stuff, did you connect like I believe you had mentioned that you've pretty much been in a spiritual place since early on, correct? Did you mention that? So, how did that affect like emotionally and mentally and spiritually as you were going through this stuff in that relationship? Because I know from a lot of experience in relationships that all that stuff that happened to us either in childhood or as a teenager or whatever, like really laid the foundation for all of the experiences and opportunities, which I call them now, that I've had in my life. So can you go a little bit deeper into how that all connects for you, and even if you could share like an example of what something, was like for you, an opportunity I'll call an opportunity was like for you to work through and how you worked through it as you were doing it. I mean, with your mentor, without your mentor, however, if you could share that, that would be great.
Well, yeah, I think going back to that initial position of why do we find ourselves in situations where we are not living in a place of grace and ease? And I do think, yes, it's part of our human experience that the family unit that we've come into, you do then live your life through all of that conditioning, whatever that may look like for each of us. And I think we then respond as adults to that stuff that we're conditioned to carry before we have the ability to determine what is ours and what isn't ours to have to. And I don't think you come to that realization until you get into your midlife years where you just start to think, why am I doing this repeating kind of thing? Because you do, if you go back through all of your relationships or all of your workplace contexts or whatever the thing is for you, you will see that repeating pattern of behavior. But I don't think you come to a place where you can have that reflective approach until it's a hindsight thing. And I think that's when the deeper healing happens, when you're able to sit back and think backwards and go, okay, I can see where those patterns occurred. So while you're in it, it's very difficult to see outside of what's going on, because a lot of the time you're in some sort of just getting through every day kind of automatic mode. Um, but I think what happens is at some point, someone comes across your path, or a book falls in your lap, or you hear a podcast, or you watch something on TV, and it's just that one thing that will resonate with you that then makes you stop and go, okay, this is not what I should be doing. For me, it was a person. And I think having that person hold space for me and ask me those questions that allowed my awareness to come back to the forefront and to have me sort of stop and go, okay, I need to stop and think about what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it and why I'm allowing it. The process involved really going back to those very foundational practices of mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or all those things that allow you to take yourself into some form of present moment and allow your own inner voice to be heard again. And that's different for everybody. How everybody does that practice is really a very individual thing. For me, it was a combination of finding that time just for me to be sitting with me, and then setting those small boundaries, like speaking your truth, like saying the words out loud to whoever needs to hear them. And I think every time you do that, or you set a boundary where you go, I'm not going to accept that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to work that way anymore. Whatever that is for you. And this is how I work with my clients. Just start setting those small boundaries that honor yourself first. It sort of then strengthens your process, because once you realize I've done it the first time and this is the result, it then empowers you to go, okay, I can step forward. And then the outcome just is whatever the outcome
Yeah.
is, either regardless of what your situation is, either everybody comes to the party and you try to come to some sort of resolve, or you don't. And you determine that it's healthier to let it go.
Sure. Now, here's the thing that's really blowing my mind. And like for me, I feel like I've come to this earth to go into the pits of fire, to experience the not the worst of the worst, but what felt like the worst of the worst to me, and then claw my way out. And it took me over 35 years to do this. And so what you're sharing came way later for me. Like all the things that I went through when I was, from the traumas, from the relationships, from the why is this happening to me again, all that stuff. It didn't really settle, and I never really understood all these things like you're talking about with gratitude and all these different things that that help that you share with your clients. None of that sat with me until one day, maybe a few one days, because aha moments happen all in little
Yeah.
spurts, right? One day, it's like, oh, but it took me 35 years to figure this out. Why is this happening to me again? All those things. But that right there for me was that noise you were talking about. When you heard that noise, what was that like for you? So our audience can understand what you mean by the noise. Because for me, it was my parents, my grandparents, the former partners I was with, other kids that used to make fun of me, the bullying, all that. That was my noise. Or it was me telling me that I wasn't good enough, or that kind of thing. What was that like for you, the noise?
I think the noise is different for everybody, but generally, and I always try to describe this in terms of, um, we have a comfort meter. We have an internal comfort meter. And the thing is that we are not taught to intuitively listen to ourselves. We're not taught to listen to our body, so the physiological things that occur to us, and we're not taught to listen to those internal responses that come from your heart chakra space. They're all there. We get them. We either just can't hear them, don't want to hear them, don't recognize them. So it's very difficult when you're young. And when I say young, I'm saying probably anything under the age of 20, because unless you are growing up in a family that is aware of this, and I suppose I was lucky in that I did have that awareness when I was younger, but I didn't understand it enough when I was younger to apply it when I was younger. So it's something that comes with the wisdom of age that allows you to then put the two emotional intelligence kind of pieces together. But I think when we talk about noise, and especially when we talk about trauma, we've come into this human experience with particular lessons that our soul wants to learn, and we learn that on this earth plane through emotions. It's where the soul comes to sit in emotions, because in spirit everything is love and light. So there's no bottom end of emotions, because they just don't exist in spirit. So we come here to experience that. So whatever we are experiencing, in a fairly general term, we've chosen to come in with. What that actually looks like when you get here is where the free will part kicks in, and how much you allow others to do to you, and how you respond to your human experience. That's the part that is determined once you get here. But I think if you can just remember that the experience is not meant to be traumatic, it's not meant to be joyless. That is something we actually allow because of the way our whole world has evolved. And we've all been brought up to think that, oh, this is meant to be really hard. Life's meant to be really hard. We get up, we go to work, we struggle, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's actually not how it's meant to be. That's a conditioning that as a society we've been brought up to expect is what it is. So as far as the noise is anything that is not comfortable, that makes you unhappy, that affects your body, that affects your emotional patterns. So if you can always just step back and think about, how does this make me feel? And if it's not making you feel comfortable, if it's making you sad, if it's making you cry, if it's making you not sleep at night, if it's affecting the way you're eating, if it's not making you want to go to work, if it's meaning I don't want to go home in the afternoons and face what's happening inside my front door, that's the noise that the universe is putting on you to say, it's time to stop. This is not for you. It's not working. But because we don't have life explained to us in that way, we ignore all that because we think it's my lot in life. And we have all these human constructs put around us in that, well, I married this person till death do us part. I can't leave. Bullshit, you can't leave. That is a human construct. You're meant to go in, experience it, learn the lesson and go, okay, that was fun. Thanks for coming. Love you. Let's
That
go.
was fun. That was fun.
And so when you're in situations where, and I think once you sort of can hear someone say this, and I know this is what it was like for me, and you can stop and go, okay, where did it start? It starts quite softly. It starts with a word, a sentence where you go, oh, okay, why did you speak to me like that? Or why did you say that? Or, oh, I don't like that person. And then when you don't take that on board and put that boundary in place, that word or that attitude then becomes a little bit louder and a little bit noisier. And it doesn't have to be a relationship. It could be a workplace. It can be a friendship. It can be a community group. It can be something you're trying to start and it keeps falling over. It's a matter of going, okay, this is not working for me. That means I need to let it go. And when we're not listening to that, the noise gets louder. And unfortunately, because we are in a human construct, sometimes that noise is trauma, because that's kind of how the human emotion, when you are involved with people and places, and it can be an organization's cultural outlook, such as a workplace. When you're in places where people don't have that emotional intelligence awareness and they just keep putting it on you, then it becomes traumatic to you because you're allowing it to happen. And the universe will just keep going, you're not hearing me. We're going to make it louder. We're going to make it louder. We're going to hit you across the back of the head with that brick. Okay, you're still not hearing us. And unfortunately, the escalation of behavior occurs because as humans, we don't know how to manage it. We don't know how to regulate our behavior and our responses. So because for whatever reason, we don't feel like we're getting our message across to you, often it becomes a trauma response to the person, or you're on the receiving end of someone else's trauma response. It's always really important to always stop and go, okay, I'm on the receiving end, but what's making the person respond to me in this way? We're all carrying our own trauma and our own preconditioned set of issues. So
Mm.
it's,
Yeah, yeah.
it's complex, and it's just a matter of peeling it all apart. But you can't do that until you're in a space where you can just sit in the emotion of it and really think about why am I allowing this to occur? And why is it occurring? And I don't have to do it. And I can step away.
I'm glad you came back around to the emotional part of it, because there was one thing that popped into my head that I wanted to kind of talk about is um, in my experience, and as I've been working with my clients and talking to people and everything, I've learned that our emotions are there as part of who we are, kind of like a GPS system, so to speak, and they're there in actuality to help us understand what's going on. Like for example, uh this opportunity that you shared, if this person's in front of you and you start to feel anger, well, that's if we had learned this correctly and if we have been programmed correctly, we would have known that your feeling of anger, or our feeling of anger, means that you have to set a boundary. But they don't teach any of this stuff. Most societies, modern societies, don't teach that. They haven't taught it for a long time. And what that does is it teaches us how to suppress these emotions, which causes, aside from the trauma, which is already causing, emotions and stress response and all that kind of stuff, it's causing more trauma to build. And they now talk about something called complex PTSD, which is like stacking emotions and traumas. It's like up, up, up. All this stuff has been stacked, and then we're suppressing all the stuff that's been stacked. So, who's not going to blow up when that last resort hits? Like you went into the noise. That's the noise you're talking about. It's both internal and external. And I wanted to kind of loop in there too, because most of my audience are empaths and highly sensitives. And so their experience of noise is not only what's going on outside of them, it's also uh, very subtle energetic noise that they pick up within their nervous system. And that creates a whole other level of what do I do? I don't understand. I don't know what's happening here. Why can't I, be normal or whatever that is? Well, we're not meant to be normal for one thing as empaths, highly sensitives, I don't think. But what it does is it actually creates, like, and you're correct about you call it the brick, I call it the two
Yeah.
by four,
Whatever's
because
handy to
little
grab.
by little, Yeah, whatever. But you're not the one doing it to yourself. There's another force doing that with you that I've experienced. But it's so interesting because if you hear the answer, you pray or you ask for the answer. You go through life and the answer comes, but we're either so afraid or stubborn, that's me, or there's something that blocks us stepping out. Maybe a fear of the unknown, I would guess, I would venture to guess. But the more we resist, the bigger the 2x4 the brick gets. And when it finally hits, it hits. And you have no control over that at that point. Like you had a lot more control when it was that little small voice talking inside your head saying, "Hello, Caroline or Michelle, you probably want to look at this and try and switch some things around." Nope. We're gonna keep going and we're gonna keep doing it the way we've been doing it, which hasn't really been working. And then the day comes and there's when it all explodes in your life. And I'd like for you to touch on this a little bit. If you don't create a space where you connect with yourself and your emotions to understand what is going on, and how would you do that, and like how would you share that with your client? How did you do it yourself? How do you connect with those emotions so that voice doesn't get louder until it becomes that?
And I think you're right. We always feel it before our brain will process it, because we're an emotional being. That's why we're here. And if you're empathic, then you're going to feel it even more. But we will usually get a feeling about something before our brain kind of works us through that in the human form. So it could be that you get you get that gut feeling, whatever that is for you. Some people it's goosebumps, some people it's butterflies in the stomach, some people you just get that withdrawing feeling of something or someone. You will feel it.
Yeah.
Or, you then start going into the heavier side of that, where I said before, you're having trouble sleeping, your nervous system is you're feeling it when you walk into crowded rooms or into certain situations with certain people. So if we could just learn to go back and listen to our intuitive body's responses, which is our warning system. And let's face it, in the wild, you see animals do it all the time. They are sensing someone approaching them long before they see you. So we have that same sixth sense. We've just forgotten how to use it. And how do you bring people back to that? I think you initially have to have this conversation. You have to make people aware that it is not just this weird thing that's happening in your brain. It is an inbuilt warning system that you come here with that you are refusing to listen to. And like any warning system, the more you refuse to listen to it, the more the alarm's going to keep going off louder and louder and louder. It's like when you're approaching the level crossing, the closer you get to the train, the louder the warning comes and the brighter the lights look, because now you're there waiting for the train. Life's exactly the same way. And if you're allowing yourself to get that close and the noise is that loud, then you're getting to the point where you might possibly end up in front of that train. And I've got another.
I used to I wanted to share with you my thing was always the light at the end of the tunnel is the train. Throughout my life it was the train, and then at one point it was like it's not the train anymore. It's actual
That's it.
light
So,
happening.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I think because everybody comes to this in, and primarily for women, we do come to it in that midlife phase, because that's when, like when we sort of get to 40, that is when we start to undergo the physiological changes that are going to start to happen as we approach the menopause years. Astrologically and energetically, that's when a lot of our major astrological transits start to occur. So energy is happening for us, whether we want to believe it or not, it's going to happen. So we start to be hearing that very loudly when we get to that 40 plus age group. And I think that, and it really just comes down to the fact that because no one's had this conversation with me, I haven't kind of read about it in a book. I haven't heard somebody else on a podcast talk about it. I I'm just living in this moment and in this noise, and I don't know what to do because we only know what we know. And unless we've had a friend go through it and we now can look at our own situation with that mirror, or we've had a family member that can nurture us out of that. It could be that it's our mother's experience or our whoever. We just keep doing it because we don't know how to not do it. And it is fear. It's always fear. And often, often people allow a lot of discomfort to happen to them because it's become discomfort's actually become the comfort level. You've got so used to living in that space, you've forgotten what it's like to not live in that space. And until you've removed yourself, that's when you go, how did I do that for that long? This is what I could have been in. But yeah, hindsight, as we were saying, hindsight's wonderful. But um, so
But it's
yeah,
hindsight.
hindsight's great. But
Yeah.
I think when you finally get to a point, and everybody's different, and some people never come to it, and again, that's their human experience. But for people who do get to a point where they've suddenly had that light bulb moment, whatever it is, where they go, okay, I need to do something. And it could be that they come to someone like me or you. It's just having that person hold space with them and start to have those small conversations. Okay, what's going on? What are you experiencing? Mm, Why do you feel like this is okay? And and people have to come to it themselves. You can't talk people to it. You have to just sort of ask the questions and have them sit in the emotions of it so they sort of come to it themselves. And it's just around now, just put one small boundary in place. I'm not saying to you on day one of a conversation, pack your bags and leave, go to the boss and resign. I'm not saying that's what you do. If you can do that, if you have the mental strength to do that, or if you're so far at the end of your tether that that is the only result, then maybe that is what you're going to do, but that's rare. Normally it's okay. Just pick one thing. Pick one thing that you're going to do today that will allow you to just start to hear your story. And that could be, I am going to take 5 minutes out of every day and sit down with a cup of tea and a journal, and I'm just going to be in my own quiet moment. It could be, I'm going to go for a walk every day. It could be that, and I said this in an interview yesterday, I'm living in a house full of teenagers. I'm worked to the bone. I'm going to demand that they all do their own washing. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. It's like, and people laugh at that, but I'm telling you now, how many of us midlife mothers who are working and managing our relationships and manage our other, engagements, and we have middle teenager to young adult children, and we're also managing their lives and we're looking after them and we're cooking their food and we're doing their washing and we're cleaning their rooms and we're constantly going, can you pick that up? Do you have to just stop doing it? Just, I'm not doing it anymore. When you don't have clean undies to wear, wash them. That can be a huge boundary for some women if they're taking on all of that. So it's just a matter of looking at each person's individual point in time and going, what can you do right now that you can do and you can manage? What's something you can do that you feel confident that you can do consistently, and just do it. And then once you've done that, we'll come back and
Yeah.
we'll gather again and we'll go, how did it go? How do you feel? Oh, wow. So you noticed a change. What's the next thing we can do? And sometimes because they've done it, they've already started to do the next things because the first one worked and they went, oh, okay, wow. Because as I say, like a lot of the time in normal sort of environments, before you've got to the ultra trauma, a lot of the time we just keep allowing this to happen to us because we have an expectation that we have to carry it all. And we don't understand why everybody around us isn't seeing that. It's because they're not focused on you. We're all focused on ourselves. And people only know what they know. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't say to your family, I need you to do this, if you don't go into your workplace and say to your boss, I think I need you to do this for me, they don't know because you're actually functioning from a place of I need everybody to think I'm holding it together. So everybody looks at you and goes, well, you're okay. Because that's what we do. So
You know, it's interesting. Let me share something. So not everyone, like I always keep coming across this. It's like I wish, there are certain things I wish I would have done differently, obviously. At times. I'm okay with it now, but there were times where I did that. But it's interesting to me that of course you said we're not all the same. So, for me, the empath and the training of putting everybody else first definitely was the thing that created that environment, and so it was very difficult for me to step out of that. I mean, every single time I would go in, I would do that, what you're explaining, and then I'd be like, why did I just do that again? And and sometimes we don't know because it's subconscious, it's part of a trauma, it's part of feeling not good enough. So you can dive in. There's no simple reason why we behave the way we behave. There's no simple one answer to any of that, but there's explanations when we have conversations where we can share our experiences and create an environment where people can say, "Hey, well that makes sense," or "That sounds like me," or, that kind of thing. But, and it's not easy. I mean, it also depends on your nervous system, it depends on the trauma, it depends on the size of the trauma, it depends on how the trauma affected the emotions. It depends on your stress responses. It depends on all kinds of things. So there's no tried and true like answer to any of it because it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with feeling, it has to do with emoting, it has to do with uh your body. Always comes back to the body because that's the place, that's your guidance, that's where you're going to know what to do. But if you're so dissociated or so um just not connected in any way with your body, it's going to be harder to do that kind of stuff. And I'm just sharing like what it feels like from my end of it because that's kind of how I like it wasn't that easy to get into that stuff. I had to find all kinds of different, pathways to just see what worked for me. And you had mentioned this too. It's like what works for you. And if it works great, you keep going, you stick it in your toolbox. And if it doesn't work, then you're like, all right, what's next? That kind of thing. So that kind of leads me into I want to get into the first question, aside from, getting into the trauma and everything. Um, so when you talk about helping women quiet the noise. We talked about that and reconnect with themselves. What does that process actually involve?
the process really is, have the conversation. So when a client comes to me, part of the diagnostic part of what I do, which the client really doesn't, they don't even have to know what I've done. I first of all look at your birth data and I will pull your natal chart. I will look at the progressed moon phase that you're in. I will look at your human design. I look at what is the energy you chose to come in and be born with, because often once I know that, I know how I can support that person to move with the energy. There's no point, like if somebody comes to me and says, I'm in a job, I hate it. I don't know what to do, but it's all I've ever done. I don't know how to do anything else, but it's not working for me anymore. And I've been looking and looking and looking for work and I can't find different work. And I haven't looked at their energy. And I keep saying to them, oh, it'll be fine. Just keep applying, the right thing. But they're not in a new moon phase, or they're not in the right energy phase. They're in, say, a balsamic moon phase, which is the phase that happens before the new moon, which is the phase where, well, this is kind of normal because this 3 years is about you clearing away the things that don't serve you anymore. So, you know, you're not meant to find the new job yet because you haven't looked at what you need to release. And if you don't make space for your emotions to carry the new experience. The new experience will fall over. It's that grass is greener thing. It might look better, but you're not ready for better yet because you haven't dealt with what's sitting here. So if I don't understand the energy of the person and the phase that they're sitting in, then I actually could be trying to get them to move in a space that energetically they're not ready for. And that's just going to keep, the noise won't stop because I'm now pushing them into a place where they're not meant to be. So diagnostically, I look at that and I call that your soul map because it is what it is. And then I can say to someone, okay, this is where, like, and often once they start telling me what's happening, it makes sense to me energetically. Well, this is why it's happening. So I know a lot about them energetically before I've even had the first conversation. And then we just go, okay, so what's happening right now, this minute? And it could be that the relationship is not working, or the job's not working, or I'm living in this place in the world that I don't like. Everyone's context is different, and it can be multiple contexts.
Do you, do you do astrocartography
No,
too?
no, but that's a whole other area of study. Um,
It's
yeah,
okay. It's normal stuff.
but yeah,
Yeah,
that
don't worry
talks
about
about
it.
that. But so, like, once I understand that, then I'm working with you, and I'm not sort of then having you work against yourself. But once you do that, and once you can talk about the thing that's actually bothering you, and you know what? It's not even about working out why you're like it. That doesn't matter. I'm at a point now where I'm only just able to go back through what it was for me and nut out what happened in the conditioning phases of, the 0 to 7 years, the 7 to 14 years, the 14 to 21 years. I can only do that now. That's not what you need to worry about. You just need to worry about the present moment, what's happening for me, what do I need to move so that the situation changes and I can come back into joy and happiness and my nervous system can relax. So, the deep healing happens way, way, way into the future. At this point in time, it's just a matter of tell me what you're experiencing. Let's see what we can do. What do you have capacity for? Just do one thing and notice and
Yeah.
notice, listen to yourself. What changes now that you've done that one thing?
Mhm, mhm. That makes a lot of sense. I'd like for you because this is all good. This is really good information. Now, at this time, since you're an astrologer and since you know human design, I'm going to say something because I've done my human design, and I'd like for you real quick to kind of give some information because I know. So I'm a self-projected projector, 4/6.
You're worse than
I'll
me.
let you.
I'm
Yeah,
just a projector, but you're a self-projecting projector.
you're just a projector. Yeah. So, well, for me, it's like the 4/6, the networking piece or the connection piece on the 4 is fine. It's great. It always works. The 6, which is what's the wording for that? I can't remember.
Uh,
It's like I was on the roof and then I came off the roof. I'm off the roof.
yeah, off the
I don't,
top of my head, I can't. Yeah,
anyway, so it's me being the person who puts myself out in the world, but the challenge for me is I'm also an observer, which, like, being a projector and an observer and never being observed and always having to wait and
yeah.
going through all that stuff. Anyway, so between the projector piece of it, and I'm going to say this because it always frustrated me with being a projector, even though I finally figured out how to work it. When you're doing your work, we've got all this stuff leading to the whole 2027 thing and the next couple of years and how things are going to work. Is there anything that you can share with the audience who probably does know what human design is, or for people who might be interested in how the next couple of years with astrology and human design may be helpful to understand especially if they're going through something or they're working through something or they're healing or they're clearing or any of that stuff. Is there anything that people can do over the next couple of years without having to just jump right in and, oh God, I got to get healed, because whatever 2027 is coming or 2026 is coming. What can you share with how to do that process?
I think the important thing to remember is that it what happens collectively. So what can happen to somebody in a particular transit can be totally different to the same person going through the same transit, because a lot of things factor in, because we're not all born at exactly the same time at the same place. They're even identical twins. There is always a degree of difference. And then we have the things that we're bringing in. So when you're looking at a chart, and you then have things like your Chiron asteroid, and you have your south and north node. Now, they are the individual karmic energies that we're bringing back in. Now, none of us have an identical karmic energy. Even if we're identical twins, the previous life that we had, we're going to have different experiences that we've decided we're going to work on in this lifetime. So I think, sure, it's fine to open your daily women's magazine and go, oh, what's the Capricorn horoscope for today? But that's a collective energy reading. How that is going to work for you today is dependent on your entire energetic framework. So, for instance, I'm a projector. So people that have the human design type of a projector, we are built to show ourselves to the world and then wait. So we can't keep pushing out there. We can't barrel into rooms. We can't, as much as we, and imagine, I'm a Capricorn. So my whole life revolves around climbing the ladder and working like crazy and being the top of the mountain. I'm the goat. My human design says, no, you can climb to a certain level, and now you have to wait. You have to wait for people now to come to you and go, hey, I think you might have what I want. If I go to them, it'll probably fall over because I'm not working in the flow of my energy. If you're if you're a generator, you work the other way. You're very much, I'm going at it. It's trial and error. Everything I feel into my experiences. I just give it a go. I throw caution to the wind. And then if it doesn't feel okay. So, if you're carrying the energies of the particular design type, but you're working against it, and you're wondering why things aren't working, it's because, well, you're going at it like a bull at a gate because you're a generator design, but you're not listening to the feeling around it. When you walk into that business meeting and you throw that fantastic proposal out there and everybody's like, ah, you're then pushing too hard. You then have to sit back and go, oh, how'd that feel? That didn't feel okay. No, so, and it's not something you understand overnight.
Generators are on the way. Have to excuse. I wanted to make sure it was like they have to wait for because when they're emotional, everything falls apart, and so they have to ride the wave to wait for the emotion to kind of settle before they can make um a decision or
That's
to
right.
do
You have
something or
to wait
whatever.
and
I think
feel. So
that's what I'm
okay, I've done the initial step
right.
forward. Now I'm just going to sit and let that marinade. Don't get it.
And most people are generators, correct?
Yes. Yeah. There's less
Yeah.
projectors
So
and the self-projecting projectors. Yeah.
yeah,
So you can't,
you're like
yeah,
2%, right?
you just can't take, the general kind of description without feeding all the other individual things around you into it. So where do you start? You start by maybe thinking about, okay, so what's my sun sign? Because your sun sign's what feeds me. What feeds me? That's my vitality. So start by understanding that. Start by understanding my moon sign. What's my emotional food? Because they're the two things that they're with you every single day. What's my rising sign? Because that flavors everything I do. It flavors the way I approach everything. So even just understanding those three things from a fairly general perspective, go online, There's 1,000 free things that will generate you an astrological natal chart that will generate your human design. Read about it. Set in the information. Have a think about, oh, okay, well, yeah, that is kind of what I do, but maybe I need to curb that a little bit because it's saying that I need to do that. It's education. Just educate yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
and feel into it.
Well, I'd like to throw a wrench in, if that's okay, with the astrology piece of it. Somewhere along the line, I learned about the 13th sign that people started sharing online, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And it shifted the astrology, the Western astrology charts, it shifted those. And when I looked into that, so I am a Leo. So here we're connecting everything. A self-projected projector who in the Western charts is a Leo with a with a Gemini moon and a Gemini rising. So I fit into all that. But then when I went and looked at the other chart, the 13 moon chart, I become a Cancer, Taurus, which also fits with a lot of who I am. It just depends on the time, the day, whatever. I mean, some days I'm like, I'm out there, I'm this, I'm Leo-ish, or I'm Gemini doing the whole Gemini thing or whatever. And then there are days that I get into Taurus and I'm stubborn and, I mean, but those are just general statements, I know. But I noticed when I did the research on there that I also have those attributes. I don't know if you know how much you know about the
Yeah,
13 month
I
astrology,
haven't
but
delved into that, but we have to remember that even though we are a whatever you're born under, so for you, you're a Leo sun. But you have to remember that within the whole framework of your natal chart, every single planet and every single sign is in there because every sign is ruled by a planet and you have certain planets in certain houses. So you're always going to experience, you can never say, oh, I don't have any Taurus in my chart. Well, yeah, you will have it. You'll have it somewhere. You'll
you
have
have
it all
all of
there.
them,
So
don't
you're always going to
yeah.
feel that energy at some little point in time somewhere. And it could be that you only feel it if there's a particular transit happening where Taurus is in the picture. And then you may find that you're feeling very security orientated, that Taurus energy of, I like to have my creature comforts. I like to be safe and secure. And I like to know where my job is. And I like to know where my income's coming from. And I don't like change. Like Taurians, they don't like to move out of their own comfort zone because they just unhappy and they transition very slowly. There are going to be times when you're going to feel that energy. But I mean, unless you want to deep dive into astrology and learn it to the nth degree, you, which you can do, it's impossible. So it's just more around like, if you just understand that the base personal planets and just what your baseline energy is, that is enough for you to just understand, well, I'm actually trying to act in a way that is not energetically what I'm set up for. And that could be because that those expectations have been put on us from an early age. So we're actually pushing in a way that we think is the expected way we should be. Whereas your energy is going, no, you're not meant to be like that. You're like that because that's what you think everybody wants you to be. It's not what your true self should be. And sometimes just
Right.
understanding that at a deeper level is all that and accepting
Mhm.
it. It's.
That's that's an important statement because I want to put in something here that's really important, especially for people who don't really understand astrology or don't understand how the planets work or whatever. This system has been around for thousands of years,
Ever,
right?
forever.
Thousands of years. Ever. Because that's how people lived on this planet is in relation to the universe, to the stars, to the sun, to the moon, to all of it. And so it's been coming down through the generations all this time. And I know there are people out there who don't believe in this stuff, But look, I mean, have you ever walked no, let me rephrase this. Have you ever driven down the road on a full moon and notice that everybody is freaking crazy, mad, right? Not mad crazy, not mad. Or they could be mad too. They drive crazy, they're doing all this stuff. The emergency rooms are full,
Happens.
the police are I hear sirens all the now that's all astrology. That it's the energy of the planets in their movements, the magnetism, the all of this stuff. So there's also a scientific explanation in for this to add to this. But for those of you who before you say, "Oh, it's woo woo. It doesn't make any sense. I don't believe any of that garbage." You know, that kind of thing. Take a look at like go deep into it or deep enough where you're like, "Wait, you know, this does okay, so they picked out and they said exactly who I am and yeah, all right, but it's still woo woo." But at another level, it's really deep and informative and helpful. And if you follow your astrology, you will go in directions, just allowing to do it. You will go in directions that you never even dreamed or thought possible just by going, okay, well, wow, this is interesting or something like that. But I just put out there that it's not woo woo. It's something, you know, I mean, getting in touch with Michelle to go over your astrology would be a good place to start, right? So you know, or like she said, look it up yourself, and then when you start having questions, then reach out to
Yeah,
her
like
and start asking her what's going on
that's
here.
it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're always going to. Well, for a start, anybody that really doesn't think any of this is a thing, they're never going to come to people like you and me in the first place. They're going to live their human experience over and over and over, and that's fine because eventually, in one human experience, they'll come to it. But if you're sitting here and right now, and you hear us talking, or you hear another podcast, or you see a book in a bookshop that grabs your attention, or you'll watch something on TV and there'll be a theme, that normally is just that one thing that's being put in front of you to make you go, hmm, okay. And then, yes, this is free. You do not have to pay people like me and Carolyn to do this. You can go and Google natal chart, free natal chart generator, put your date of birth in. If you don't know your time, try to narrow it as much as you can. If that means you call your mum or you call your mum's sister or you try to find someone who was around when you were born and you go, well, do you remember, was it early morning, middle of the day, lunchtime? Like just try to narrow it down a little bit and create a chart and look at what the chart program, it'll then give you a screed of, well, you're a Taurus rising, and it'll tell you what and think about that and go, well, yeah, okay, that kind of does explain why I do that. And, you know, I am a Taurus and I really don't like this job. And why am I sitting here? Because Taurians don't like moving outside their comfort zone. Or I'm a
Yeah.
Capricorn. That's why I'm a workaholic and I need to curb that. Like my energy, I've come in with that energy, but there's a shadow side to that energy which topples you in the other direction. Just learn the same way you learn about the hair color you like to put in when you go to the hairdresser, or the particular color you like to learn about it like anything else, as just a personal development thing, and just implement little things that allow you to go, well, maybe if I think about myself now in that way and I just change how I respond to that, and let's see what happens. If it works for
Mm-hmm.
you, okay, I'm going to keep pushing that a little bit more. If it falls over, oh, okay, went too much. Just play, just play with it. But don't tell me,
That's my
yeah, don't
toolbox.
tell
Yeah,
me it's
that's
woo woo
exactly.
when people go and grab a tide chart before they go fishing, because that's worked out on the moon. The moon pulls the tides. If the moon can do that to the bodies of water on the planet, what's it doing to the bodies of water internally to us? And, you know, if you've got children, and they're all starting to go ballistic on a particular day of the month, check the calendar and I'll guarantee you're 3 or 4 days out from a full moon. And you just learn. You learn to look at the calendar and go, full moon coming, I'm just going to let them go because they're all crazy and they're going to have moods. And then once the full moon's over, they regulate again. I mean, that's right. Back before we had what we have now, farmers farmed to the planets. They farmed to the seasons. They watched the migration of the animals because the animals are tapping into that
Yes.
energy.
Farmer's Almanac.
That's
Did you guys get Farmer's
we
Almanac
have
at
versions of it.
where
Yeah.
you are?
That was the only thing
Okay.
we
Okay.
had. They didn't have
Yeah.
things that told us, they had to plant.
Yeah.
So it's not woo woo. It is knowing how
Mhm.
the planet is telling us it's time to do this, and the stars are at a certain
Mhm.
time, which tells me, well, when that star is at that point in the sky, it must be the time that I do this. Now we have calendars and we have clocks, but we didn't always have that. Um,
That's a whole
It's
other
a whole other
conversation though.
conversation. But yeah, just, you know,
Yeah.
when you hear things that make you stop and go, okay, maybe that would help me understand me better, my current situation better, go and research it. Go. And you'll find that the minute you
Yeah.
start to have that thought, other things will start to come across your peripheral. Somebody will suddenly say, oh, I had that conversation. Oh, yeah, that happened to me. And then you kind of rabbit hole there a little bit. That's the universe putting the things in front of
Mhm.
you that you need to work your way through it.
And the only thing that you need to do is be
Be
curious,
curious.
because curiosity, it may have killed the cat, but it's not going to kill you if you just
That's
start
right.
questioning things that look
Yeah.
interesting
And
to
become
you.
aware.
So,
Once you're aware,
so
it makes, yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Awareness, that's good. That's good. So, Michelle, I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask all of my guests. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
be kind to yourself. You're, you're not broken. You're not in crisis. You're just coming to a point in your life where your energy is saying, rethink it. It's time to rethink it because maybe it's not working. And don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself for where you are. Don't judge yourself for not moving in or out of it fast enough. Just go with one thing and just move. Just take some form of action and celebrate yourself for having the courage to take one form of action. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. How would you define awakening?
It is not a light bulb moment. It is not a clap of thunder and an earthquake. It is just what I just said. Awakening is when you suddenly sit and you hear that one piece of information that makes you go, I'm not doing that anymore. That is awakening.
Right.
Just that one thing.
Yeah.
And it might be a huge thing. It might be that I had a car accident today, and I had that car accident because I haven't been sleeping well. And if I had not been half asleep at the wheel, I wouldn't have had the car accident. That's awakening. It's not it's not some big, huge religious thing that happens with angels and trumpets. It is you going, I need to stop. I need to move. I need to start rabbit holing or deep dive, whatever it is for you. That is awakening. It's subtle. It's
Mm,
quiet. It comes to you where you're ready to hear it. And it could be that your awakening does come in a really loud bang, such as, you know, you have a car accident or you get sacked from your job, because what's happening is that the universe is getting to a point where they're going, okay, you're not going to listen. We're going to make you move. So we will orchestrate it. You don't want to get to that point. I want you to identify it before you get to that point, because, in tarot, those tower moments are the things that you rock your world, but sometimes you have to have that world rocked. But yeah, don't think awakening is some huge, great big moment. It is just that. It's an awakening. Yeah. You're waking up.
It's 35 plus years
Yeah.
worth
Just sometimes it takes
on my,
people
at
a bit
least on
longer to
my
wake
end.
up than others, and I'm no, I was 50. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. What do you believe soul divinity is?
I don't know that I really even think about things in those words, but I think if you sort of break it down to, like, what's divine? Divine is coming into your human experience and living it to your best possible potential, because that's what your soul wanted this time around. It wanted to come here so that you could live different emotions and different experiences and learn from that, and learn that it's joy and it's calm, and the more you can lean into that, and the more you can choose to live in a state of response and not reaction, then you're allowing that divineness to come to you. It's around living your life in the most amazingly beautiful way you can.
Mm, I love that. Thank you so much. So, how can people get in touch with you? And just know that all this information is going to be in the description, but I just want you to share.
So you can just find me at michellewollaston.com, and contact me through my website, or have a look what I have there. If you just Google me, I write for some publications, so you can just like read my articles and see if that allows you to reflect and respond. Um, Socials, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm in all the usual places. So you can just reach out to me. Just leave a comment on the podcast comments if you want me to get in touch with you. Um, and yeah, feel free to reach out. If you're in a situation where you feel you're not sure if you agree with what we're talking about, or you don't have the resources to be, contacting, read the articles. They're free. Download a magazine where I'm writing, or just go and read my website, or listen to my podcast, and like, access the stuff that's out there in the public domain first, and just see what resonates, and lean into it.
Yeah, and also too, you are correct about Googling you. You're like when I Googled you before we got together, and it's like, oh, you pop up everywhere. It's
As
just
as the marketing
she's
as the
on
marketing
there.
people
Okay.
would say, my SEO is really good, whatever that is, but it seems to work.
Yes, apparent SEO, search engine
Yeah, that thing. Yeah,
optimization.
apparently
Yeah, I wish mine was that
apparently
good.
it's really good. So you just Google me now, and there I
Yeah,
am. Yeah.
you're SEO
And it's
person.
it's
Just
just
saying.
me.
Okay.
It's just me
Um.
putting it out there.
Oh well, I want you
Yeah.
then.
I,
You got nothing else
and
to
don't
do,
ask
right?
me what I did. I don't know what I did, but whatever it was, it worked.
So, Michelle, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Just like, if you're listening to this today and you're sort of getting a bit goosebumpy, or you're sort of like, oh, I think that's me, go back and listen again. Get a pen and paper out. Go back and listen to this again. And everywhere that you feel a sensation as we're talking, just write it down. And then just go and look into it. Go, well, okay, I'm going to go and Google my natal chart, and I'm going to sort of think about, all my life I've been going, oh yeah, I'm a Leo, but what does it actually mean? And understand the energy that you're carrying. Just take those baby steps. If the noise is too loud, make yourself a promise that every day you're going to take 10 minutes out for yourself, lock yourself away somewhere, and just be in your own presence. Just promise yourself, especially this time of the year, because we're getting into the crazy zone, just take time for,
Getting into?
yeah, just take time for you, to hear you.
Yes,
And it
yes,
makes a huge difference.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So, Michelle, thank you so much for
Welcome.
sharing your journey with us today. You've reminded us that losing ourselves isn't the end of the story. It's often the turning point that leads us back home. To our audience, may this conversation remind you that your healing is possible, your identity is reclaimable, and your soul has never stopped guiding you. Thank you for being here on Awakening Soul Divinity. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget, to subscribe.